My presentation is about 12 minutes long, so we'll see how that goes. As Ranei said, I'm Paul Kennedy with the Eugene DEQ. I'm a Natural Resource Specialist 4, Land Application Specialist, and I oversee the Biosolids program for western part of the state. Next slide. So what are biosolids? Biosolids are created in two ways that we have here in the western part of the state. In the top picture, you'll see a house. It's red. It's connected to a wastewater plant, which is usually representative of a city. So a single-family dwelling, people who live in a house, who discharge their waste to a toilet, it goes into that treatment system, and that is what is called sewage sludge. You have a single-family dwelling in a rural area, you have a house, you have a septic tank and a drain field. That's another type of treatment and another type of sludge or septage, if you will. And both of these are generated through us, is what we eat. The organics, they're nutrient-rich. They're like a central vitamin for the soil. Once they're broken down, they're stabilized, and they're good for the soil. They're good for the system. You can sequester carbon. And it's rated by the EPA and the DEQ. Next slide, please. So what goes into the herd farm facility are, again, the single-family dwelling, that septic tank, if it works right, it's settling solids and rising up the scum. You've got baffles in your septic tank, and so the clear zone, what would be the liquid, goes out into the drain field, and that's attenuated by the soils. That's how your soil system works. When your septic tank gets about 35% full of scum and solids, you get it pumped. That's what goes to the herd facility. That's cold anaerobic digestion. It doesn't have a lot of volatile solids, but it's been sitting in your tank for 4 to 12 years, depending on how many people are on the system and how well it's digested. So it's pretty much pretty stable stuff that goes into the herd facility. It's a pound in, pound out. So it doesn't get a lot of reduction in that type of waste. You go down to this type of system here, and you've got two types of settling basins before a bioreactor, and they both will pull out solids, scoop them up, and put them into these bottom basins called digesters. There's a lot of things that come through here that are raw, green, fresh, has a lot of BOD, and so there's an opportunity for volatile solids reduction in both of these kind of digesters. These are the type of things that will be pulled out of a municipal system, put in a truck, and would go to herd farms. Just like this would be pumped in a tank, and that pumper truck would go to herd farms.
And by BOD, Paul, what do you mean?
Oh yeah, bioxygen chemical demand. It's how reactive something, the microbes will eat up something, consume oxygen to break it down. Sorry, my bad. I think that's it. Next slide. So, are biosolids safe? Yeah, you have to meet 3 things essentially for a biosolids to be land applied. You've got pathogen reduction, vector attraction reduction, and metals. Pathogen reduction, what we're looking for, raw sewage, raw manure, anything that's a raw fecal matter, can have organisms that 10 to the 9, and when we go through that digestion period, either in the septic tank or in the wastewater treatment plant, those yellow basins, we get a reduction in the pathogens 10 to the 6. So we get 3 orders of magnitude reduction, or about 95% removed. For biosolid, what that means is that there may be pathogens present, but they're in small amounts, and it's safe for land application on rural properties, farmland. If we made Class A, it's safe enough to put, they're non-detected, you put it on your garden. A lot of my front yard is Class A biosolids. Vector attraction is how stable is it? Typically, we measure that by a 38% volatile solids reduction. Again, it's how much the biosolids offer up to the microbes to break down something, how much oxygen do they consume. And so that's a measure of reduction. Typically, that's how we do it in a wastewater plant. And then metals, again, they're fairly low because it's what we eat. Next slide. So for the herd facility, it's anaerobic digestion, so it's out oxygen. There's a primary cell here, and all the material comes into a screen, It goes across this primary and it's pumped over to a larger secondary. The material is pulled out of the back end of this thing after it's gone through a primary digestion and then a secondary polishing. Typically, for anaerobic digestion, you need anywhere from 15 to 60 days at a certain time and temp for the bugs to work, and so that's how they're measured. How Hertram shows it is through testing. He does it through testing requirements that are on a monthly DMR and also in annual reports. And he says for the nutrients, for how he land applies nutrients as far as loading and also for the metals. Next slide, please. So the four proposed sites that we're talking about, I guess you should just leave this out. Here's the facility right here in Wilbur. There's the Kennedy, the Maddox, which are actually just west of Sutherland. They say it's Oakland, but it's really kind of off in the Sutherland area. Umpqua, the DeCamp, and then the Morgan site out close to Touchstone. Next slide, please. So the site authorizations, what we did is we went out and canvassed all the sites, we augured holes, we did the soil types, we verified them. And so what we did is we drafted up those authorization letters, which if you got a packet, you got a copy of those authorization letters, and it goes through all the criteria, the soil types, the sites, the setback tables. And agronomic rate is what the crop will use as far as nitrogen nutrients in the growing season. And so that's what we're basing the land application of biosolids on, is the nitrogen content in the biosolids at the time of use. Typically, the biosolids are spread with a spreader plate or a reel system with a sprinkler head or spreader plate, and so we get this even veneer across the field. You can see that this is a pressurized tuck, and so it's getting a very, very thin veneer as it goes across the field. It's not a big pond of water that sits there for hours and hours. Herd farms, it also has requirements for wet soils as far as the piezometers are concerned. That's a perforated pipe that goes down in the soil that would be checked to make sure there's a separation of 48 inches from the soil water table to the ground surface. And so in order to land apply, the water table has to be below that 48-inch depth at the time of land application. Okay. The setbacks, the wells, the setbacks and neighbors, it's in the packets. If the site's used 2 out of 3 years, then there's a requirement for the herd farms to do soil carryover nitrogen. So they go out and pull samples, see how much nitrogen is in the soil, how much it's built up if it has, and then we'd subtract that from the next year's land application if they were to use that site. Next slide, please. Yeah, you know, biosolids do have an odor, and it's dependent on how they're treated. What's the process they use to make the biosolids? Sometimes it's kind of a sweet, musty smell. Sometimes it's ammonia. It could have sulfur. It could be a heavy ammonia smell. These compounds are typically kind of products of polymers, dewatering processes, anaerobic processes, and so it can have odors. But the disulfides, the mercaptans, the sulfur is a plant essential nutrient, so is the ammonia. So those are things that would be used by the plant to grow. Odor controls, we can go out and lime it, we can dish the soil in, we could actually spread it thinner so it dries more than you know, if you go back over it several times the same day. So there's things we can do to mitigate odors. One site, the Maddox site, has authorization proposal to store for summer land application 2 of these bladders would hold about 200,000 gallons of biosolids. And so what the herd farms would do is they'd offload into it. There'd be a land application truck that'd be going to and fro on the land application site where the bladders are located, and they would land apply off the bladders. That helps reduce soil compaction for the farmer. They're installed on a flat piece of land, and they have secondary containment, so if there's a leak, it's controlled and contained. Next slide, please.
So before we start,
Comments or questions?
that, so 12 minutes, he added 2 minutes to his presentation. We were timed him last time, and he had those extra 2 minutes. So if it's okay with all of you, I'd like to go 15 minutes with questions and answers, and then I want to stop at 6:30. And I want to ask the people that have signed up to provide public comment if they're okay if we go a little longer with question and answers. Because part of when we advertise that we're going to start the hearing at 6:30, I like to be respectful of the people that actually, want